The moon hung high over the forest, casting eerie shadows across the frost-covered ground. The air was biting cold. Each breath Liam Bennett took turning to mist in the night. His 13-year-old heart pounded in his chest, the sound deafening in his ears as he ran. Behind him, the angry voices of the men chasing him grew louder. He went this way. Don't let him get away. His sneakers slipped on the icy leaves as he ducked beneath branches, his fingers clutching a small, worn leather journal. The yellowed pages of this precious book had been passed down through generations, and Liam knew that what was written in it could be the key to saving everything he loved. The voices behind him grew closer, their flashlights sweeping through the darkness. Panic gripped him, but then he heard it, a low whimper. Liam froze. His heart, already racing, skipped a beat. Ahead of him, in a small clearing bathed in moonlight, a magnificent German shepherd lay. Its paw was trapped in an unforgiving steel trap. The dog's gaze locked with Liam's, and despite its pain, there was no fear, only a piercing, almost human intelligence that seemed to pierce through the dark. Liam's breath caught in his throat. "I won't leave you," he whispered, carefully approaching. The dog watched him with unwavering focus, no hint of aggression, despite the cruel trap clamped around its paw. Liam knelt beside it, fingers trembling as he worked on the rusted mechanism, feeling every second ticking by like an eternity. The voices were almost upon him now. "Check over there. The tracks lead this way." The harsh voice of one of the men rang through the air. With a final, strained groan, the trap sprang open, releasing the dog's paw. Instead of running away, the German shepherd slowly rose to its feet. It didn't run. It stood in front of Liam, a low growl vibrating through its chest. The beam of a flashlight cut through the clearing, illuminating both of them. "There he is. Look at this mutt." The voice was mocking, filled with disdain as three men stepped out from the shadows, dressed in dark suits, their faces grim with determination. The German shepherd's growl deepened. Its powerful body stiffened, ready to protect Liam from whatever threat approached. Liam stood still, his hand resting on the dog's fur, a sense of calm washing over him. In that moment, he realized something profound. His life would never be the same again. The forest that had been his refuge, the dog that had become his protector, had connected him to something bigger, something ancient. Welcome to the HeartForce channel, where you and I find more meaning in life through stories about dogs. Before we continue, please comment below and let us know where you're listening to this video from. And if you have any stories about your dog, feel free to share them with everyone. Liam couldn't tear his eyes away from the German shepherd standing before him, its posture protective and strong. The men were getting closer, their flashlights blinding, their voices full of intent. The dog's growl echoed in the silence of the forest, warning them to keep their distance. Liam knew, without a doubt, that if he moved, the dog would protect him with everything it had. But Liam also knew that he couldn't run. Not yet. Not without the journal. He glanced down at the leather-bound book, still clutched tightly in his hands, and then back at the dog. The connection was instant. The dog didn't just see him. It seemed to understand him. It was as if they had shared 1,000 silent conversations before this moment, 1,000 lessons learned in the woods where Liam had spent so many hours alone. "Good boy," Liam whispered softly, his voice barely audible over the thumping of his heartbeat. He could feel the cold sweat on his skin, but he wasn't afraid. He wasn't even sure why. He'd always felt alone, abandoned even. The adoption, the whispers at school, his parents, kind, loving, and firm in their dedication to the forest, had been a sanctuary for him, but still, he'd often felt disconnected from the world. The forest had been his refuge, and now, standing here with this dog, Liam felt more whole than he ever had before. The growl of the dog deepened, and Liam's fingers tightened around the journal. He had to do something. There was no turning back now. "Stay behind me," Liam whispered to the dog, though he wasn't sure if the dog understood or if he was simply speaking to calm himself. But the dog, surprisingly, obeyed. It moved to stand behind Liam, the growl now replaced by a quiet but powerful presence. The men were almost there, their voices now so loud that Liam could almost feel the heat of their anger radiating through the air. They had no idea what was waiting for them in the clearing. Liam stepped forward, straightening up, feeling a sense of power he had never experienced before. He wasn't just a boy lost in the woods. He wasn't just an adopted kid with a past full of whispers. He was something more. He was a protector, just like this dog. And together, they had a mission. "Leave us alone," Liam called out, his voice steady despite the panic flooding his veins. One of the men, a tall figure in a black suit, snorted. "You think you could stop us, kid? Get out of the way. This doesn't concern you." Liam stood his ground, feeling the dog's presence behind him. "I said, leave us alone," he repeated, his voice stronger now. "You're destroying everything this forest stands for. You're hurting more than just trees. You're destroying something that can't be replaced. You'll see. You won't be able to take it." The man raised a hand as if to strike Liam, but the German shepherd stepped forward, blocking the path. Its eyes, cold and filled with wisdom, never left the man's face. There was a silent challenge in those eyes, a promise of consequences if they took another step. The man hesitated. There was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, but he quickly masked it. "This forest is just land. It's worth nothing. You're just a kid trying to play hero. Stay out of our way." Liam didn't back down. Instead, he took a step closer to the dog. "You're wrong. This forest isn't just land. It's home, and you're not welcome here. You won't destroy it." The man glared at Liam for a moment longer before signaling for his companions. "Let's go. We've got better things to do than argue with a kid and his dog." Liam stood motionless until the sound of their footsteps faded into the distance. Then he collapsed to his knees, the journal slipping from his hand to the cold ground. The adrenaline that had kept him upright now abandoned him, and the weight of everything, of the danger, the threats, and the knowledge of what was at stake, crashed down on him. The dog, Max, nudged his shoulder gently with its nose, offering silent comfort. Liam reached out, running his fingers through the dog's thick fur. "Thanks, Max," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I think you just saved my life." Max stood up, shaking off the tension that had filled the air moments before. He didn't need words. There was a deep connection between the two of them now, unspoken, yet undeniable. The dog's loyalty, unwavering and fierce, had bonded them together in a way Liam had never experienced before. He wasn't alone anymore. As Liam stood up, brushing off the leaves and dirt from his jeans, he took one final glance at the place where the men had stood. There was no time to waste. He had the journal, and he had a mission. The forest needed him. His parents needed him. And Max would be right by his side every step of the way. The days that followed felt like a blur for Liam. He spent every waking moment in the forest with Max, retracing his steps to the hidden clearing where they had encountered the men. The journal, now safely tucked away in his backpack, felt heavier than it ever had before. Every page seemed to carry the weight of generations of protectors, each one contributing to the legacy of the forest, each one risking everything to defend it. But now it was Liam's turn. Max trotted beside him, its paws steady and strong as they navigated the well-worn trails that Liam had memorized over the years. The dog's presence, so calm and protective, gave Liam a sense of purpose he hadn't known he was missing. The forest whispered around them, silent, ancient, but alive with the memories of every guardian who had walked these paths before them. Liam knew that it wasn't just about protecting trees anymore. It was about the heart of Willow Creek itself, about family, about belonging, and about standing up for what was right, even when it felt like the whole world was against him. He had never been more certain of his mission. Liam and Max had spent hours combing the woods, looking for signs of the development company's activities. Each morning, they followed new trails, found fresh markings on trees, and documented every instance of illegal activity they discovered. Max's uncanny ability to sense when something was wrong had become an invaluable asset, guiding Liam away from the survey teams and toward hidden places where they could gather evidence without being detected. One late afternoon, as the sun began to dip behind the tree line. Max's behavior changed. The dog had become more alert than usual, ears perked, eyes scanning the area with an intensity that made Liam pause. "What is it, boy?" Liam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Max's ears twitched in response. Then the dog turned, leading Liam toward a part of the forest that he had never explored before. It was a dense thicket of trees, the underbrush thick with brambles. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, and a strange silence seemed to hang over the area, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Liam followed Max into the thicket, his steps careful as he navigated the tangled roots and low-hanging branches. He had no idea where the dog was leading him, but he trusted Max completely. They had shared something powerful since that night in the clearing, a bond that transcended words. And now, as they moved deeper into the forest, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to unfold. The path eventually opened into a small, hidden clearing, one that Liam had never seen before. In the center of the clearing was a small cave, its entrance concealed by a dense curtain of vines. Max trotted ahead, nudging the vines aside with his nose, then stopped and looked back at Liam. "This is it, isn't it?" Liam murmured, his heart racing. Max's eyes met his, steady and knowing, and Liam realized that this was no accident. This was the place he had been led to all along. The cave was dark, its interior hidden from the fading light of the day. Liam hesitated for a moment, then stepped inside, Max following closely behind. As he fumbled for his flashlight, Liam felt a strange sense of anticipation growing within him. The air inside the cave smelled of earth and old memories. It felt like a sacred place, a hidden sanctuary that had been waiting for him. And then, in the dim light of his flashlight, Liam saw it. Scattered across the ground were old papers, leather-bound journals, faded maps, and photographs that had been carefully preserved. He knelt down, his hands trembling as he picked up one of the journals. The pages were fragile, yellowed with age, but the handwriting was still legible. The first entry took his breath away. To those who find this journal, Willow Creek Forest is more than trees and earth. It is a sanctuary for those who need healing, a protector for those who need guidance, and a home for those who feel lost. But now, it faces its greatest threat. It needs a new protector. Liam's heart skipped a beat. The journal was old, dating back to the early 1900s. But the message was clear. The forest had always been protected by someone like him, someone who cared enough to fight for it. The name at the bottom of the page caught his eye. James Crawford, Guardian of Willow Creek, 1923. Liam's fingers trembled as he read on, absorbing the words of a man who had dedicated his life to the forest. Crawford spoke of a special bond between the forest and its protectors, a bond that was passed down through generations. He wrote about a line of German shepherds who had stood by the forest's side, protecting it from those who sought to destroy it. Max, the dog at Liam's side, was part of that legacy. The realization hit him like a wave. Max wasn't just a dog. He was part of the forest's legacy. He was one of the guardians, just like Liam. Max stood quietly beside him, his warm presence a steady reminder of the responsibility Liam now carried. Liam closed the journal, feeling the weight of the forest's history pressing down on him. But he also felt something else, a deep sense of connection. The forest had been his refuge, and now it was his calling. "Thank you," he whispered to Max, his voice thick with emotion. Max gave a soft, almost inaudible growl, as if to say, "You're not alone. We're in this together." Liam stood, feeling a surge of determination flood through him. He knew now that he wasn't just protecting the forest for himself or his family. He was protecting it for everyone who had ever sought refuge here, for everyone who had ever found solace in its shadows. And the fight, as he would soon discover, was just beginning. As the weeks passed, Liam's life became a whirlwind of urgency. The forest, the sanctuary he had always known, was under siege from the development company, Sterling Development. What had once been a place of peace, where Liam could disappear into the woods and lose himself in the rhythm of the trees and streams was now a battleground. The men in suits, the heavy machinery, the stakes, all of it felt overwhelming. But Liam wasn't alone anymore. Max had become more than just a companion. He was his ally, his protector, and the constant reminder that this fight was bigger than either of them. Liam's days were spent in the forest, documenting every violation, every sign of destruction. Each time he ventured out with Max, the dog's instincts guided them through the forest's changing landscape, helping them avoid the surveyors and documenting the damage from the encroaching development. Together, they were building a case, one that could expose the company's illegal activities and save Willow Creek. But the more they uncovered, the more dangerous it became. One afternoon, as Liam and Max hiked deeper into the forest, a faint noise reached their ears. It was a low rumble like thunder, but it wasn't coming from the sky. Liam froze, his senses heightened. Max's head snapped up, his ears flicking in every direction. Liam crouched low, pressing himself against the side of a large oak tree. His heart was pounding. "Stay still," he whispered to Max. The dog crouched beside him, perfectly still. Liam strained his ears, trying to locate the source of the noise. It was unmistakable now, the sound of heavy machinery, the grinding of gears, the sharp whistle of metal on metal. The bulldozers, they were closer than ever. Liam's pulse quickened. He'd known this day was coming, the day when the developers would push forward no matter what, but hearing it in the distance made it real. The bulldozers were coming for the forest, coming for everything he had worked so hard to protect. Max whined softly, his eyes locked on Liam, as if asking for a plan. Liam's hand tightened around the journal in his backpack. The words of James Crawford echoed in his mind. The forest needs a new protector. Liam swallowed hard, a surge of resolve washing over him. This wasn't just about saving trees anymore. It was about protecting the heart of Willow Creek, the place that had saved him when nothing else could. It was about standing up for everything he believed in, even if it meant facing down the biggest challenge of his life. "Let's go," he muttered. Max nodded, his body tense with energy. Together, they slipped through the underbrush, moving with the silent grace that had become second nature. They stayed low, avoiding the bright beams of the surveyor's flashlights that occasionally swept through the trees. Liam's mind raced with plans, each one more daring than the last. He couldn't let them take the forest. He couldn't let them win. Soon, they reached the ridge, the place where the bulldozers were scheduled to begin clearing. From the edge, Liam could see the machines idling in the distance, waiting for their orders to start tearing into the land. But something caught his eye. In the distance, just past the machinery, Liam saw a small group of men huddled around a table. The flash of papers, the sharp gestures, they were discussing something important, something that could help them. Liam knew this was the break he'd been waiting for. Max's growl rumbled low in his throat, as if he could sense the danger ahead. Liam patted the dog's head, his voice steady but urgent. "Stay close, Max. We're going to gather the proof we need." With Max leading the way, Liam crept closer, his breath shallow. The men were too focused on their plans to notice the two of them, hidden in the undergrowth. Liam pulled out his camera, his hands steady despite the racing of his heart. Click, click. He took the shots, capturing the documents, the men's faces, the illegal activities unfolding before him. This was it, the evidence he needed to expose Sterling Development for good. But as he was about to move back, a sound pierced the air, a voice sharp and angry. "Who's there?" Liam's heart lurched in his chest. It wasn't the voice of one of the men. It was the voice of someone who had found them. "Run," Liam hissed, grabbing Max's collar and pulling him toward the safety of the trees. They moved quickly, moving deeper into the woods, away from the danger. But the sound of boots crashing through the underbrush behind them was unmistakable. "They've seen us," Liam muttered, panic rising in his chest. His breath came in quick gasps as he ran. But Max was already ahead, darting through the trees with ease, guiding Liam on a path that only the dog seemed to know. Max led him to a small hollow beneath a fallen tree, the perfect place to hide. Liam pressed his back against the cool earth, holding his breath as the men passed by, searching the area for any sign of their presence. Time seemed to stretch on forever. The only sound was the pounding of Liam's heart. But Max remained calm, his eyes scanning the area, alert for any danger. When the men finally gave up and moved away, Liam allowed himself to exhale. His hand was shaking as he pulled the camera from his bag, checking the pictures one last time. The proof was clear. Sterling Development was breaking the law, and Liam had the evidence to prove it. But as he looked down at Max, a new realization struck him. This fight wasn't just about evidence. It wasn't just about the forest. This was about family, about what it meant to belong, and about the strength that came from the relationships we built. Max wasn't just his protector. Max was his family now. "Thank you, Max," Liam whispered, his voice full of emotion. Max's tail wagged in response, his head resting gently on Liam's knee. They were no longer just fighting for the forest. They were fighting for the people they loved, for the home they had built together. The days that followed were heavy with anticipation. The evidence Liam and Max had gathered, the photos, the maps, the testimonies could change everything. But it wasn't just about the fight for Willow Creek anymore. It was about the truth, about standing firm when everything seemed stacked against them. The people in the town, the ones who had once supported the Bennetts, were turning away. The whispers had started again, louder this time, whispers about Liam's past, about his birth mother, about his place in this world. Liam sat in the corner of his room, the walls closing in around him as he stared at the evidence on the desk before him. The photos were clear, proof of illegal logging, pollution, and the arson that had ravaged the forest. But the cost of revealing it was high. It meant exposing everything he had fought to protect: his family, his home, his relationship with Max. It meant facing the world that had rejected him, the town that had once been his sanctuary, but now seemed like a battleground. Max lay by his side, his head resting on Liam's knee, a silent comfort in the midst of the turmoil. The dog had been his strength through it all, guiding him through the darkness, showing him that sometimes the greatest battles were not fought with fists, but with courage and truth. Liam closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his decision pressing down on him. He had to make it now. He had to choose whether to continue fighting in the shadows or to stand up, expose the truth, and risk losing everything. But as he looked down at Max, he knew there was only one choice. He would stand for what was right. The next morning, the town hall meeting was filled with tension. Liam could feel the weight of every gaze on him as he stood at the back of the room, Max by his side. The voices of the developers were louder than ever, painting a picture of prosperity, of progress. They spoke of luxury resorts, of new jobs, of a bright future for the town. But their words were hollow to Liam, his hands shaking but his resolve firm. Max stood by his side, a quiet but powerful presence, his steady eyes scanning the crowd. "Before you make your decision," Liam said, his voice shaking but clear, "I need you to see something." He reached into his bag and pulled out the evidence, the photos, the documents, the journal. As he laid them out before the crowd, a murmur ran through the room. The developers tried to shout him down, but Liam didn't back down. He continued, showing them the illegal activities, the destruction, the lives being ruined in the name of progress. "Sterling Development is lying to you," he said, his voice growing stronger. "They're destroying the heart of Willow Creek. And they don't care about what happens to the people who live here. They don't care about the forest. But I do." The room was silent as Liam spoke, the weight of his words hanging in the air. He felt Max's presence beside him, steady and unwavering, and in that moment, he knew that he wasn't alone. He had the truth on his side. "Liam," a voice called from the back. It was Mike Davidson's father, the construction manager who had once supported the development project. "You're just a kid. You don't know what you're doing. This project will bring jobs, prosperity to this town." Liam turned to face him, his heart steady despite the storm raging inside. "I know exactly what I'm doing," he said, his voice unwavering. "I'm standing for what's right. This forest, this town, they're worth more than any dollar amount. They're worth everything. The developers tried to argue, to twist the truth, but it was too late. The truth had already been laid out before the community, and the tide was beginning to turn. As Liam left the meeting, Max walked beside him, a quiet victory in their steps. The fight wasn't over, but they had made their stand. They had shown the town what was at stake. And for the first time, Liam felt like he belonged, not just in the forest, but in the world around him. He had found his purpose, his calling. The following days were filled with chaos. The town was divided. Some saw the truth of Liam's words, while others clung to the promises of the developers. But through it all, Liam stood strong. With Max by his side, he continued to gather evidence, to fight for the forest that had been his refuge, and to protect the people who had supported him. And then it came, the breakthrough. The town voted to stop Sterling Development's plans. The developers, unable to ignore the overwhelming evidence, were forced to back down. The forest was saved. The victory was sweet, but the real victory had come long before, when Liam had chosen to stand up for what was right, when he had chosen to fight for the forest, for his family, and for himself. As Liam sat in the clearing with Max, the sun setting behind them, he understood something profound. It wasn't just about protecting the forest. It was about protecting the things that truly mattered: loyalty, truth, family. Max, ever the silent protector, sat beside him, his presence more powerful than any words could express. They were a team, a family bound not by blood, but by something far stronger: unconditional love and the courage to stand for what was right. Liam's journey teaches us the power of standing up for what we believe in, even when the odds are stacked against us. It's about finding the courage to speak the truth, protect those we love, and take action in the face of adversity. Sometimes the hardest battles are not fought with strength, but with integrity and the willingness to fight for what's right. What do you think of Liam's journey and the challenges he faced in this story? How can you apply his determination to your own life? Please share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the HeartForce channel for more inspiring stories about dogs and their incredible bond with us.